Good afternoon, everyone. This is Debbie Royce, New York Liberty Development Corporation's Assistant Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting. Before we formally begin, I would ask everyone to please mute your phones unless you're speaking. And we'll begin today by taking a roll call of the directors to ensure we have a quorum present on the line. Please be so kind as to say present when we call your name. Howard Zensky.
Present.
Mehul Patel.
Present.
And Mary Chin, proxy for Kathleen Mize.
Present.
So much, everyone, for joining today. And Acting Chair Zemsky, you can begin.
Okay, thanks, Debbie, and thanks, everybody, for joining this afternoon. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Liberty Development Corporation for Friday, June 18th, 2021. Before we get started, I'd like to note for the record that I'll be the acting chair for today's meeting. I ask that everyone please mute their phones until you are ready to speak, and anyone wishing to speak, please state your name before you begin. I'd like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, this meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I'll also note for the record that the public was given an opportunity to comment on today's agenda items by submitting their written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday, and no comments were received from the public on today's agenda. Directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'd like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to today's agenda items. If so, please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time, and we will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such items. Okay, hearing none, I'd now like to ask Goldie Wexel to present the first item on today's agenda, requesting authorization for the corporation to appoint underwriters and financial advisors and to perform certain actions in connection with the 4 World Trade Center projects bond refunding. Goldie, when you're ready, please speak.
Okay, thank you very much, Howard. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, other directors. I'll start with just giving a little bit of background on this first item. The New York Liberty Development Corporation, which we'll refer to as the corporation, has been requested by 4 World Trade Center, LLC, the company, to issue approximately $1.375 billion aggregate principal amount of bonds, which I'll refer to as the bonds. The proceeds of the bonds that the corporation has been asked to issue would defease and redeem in whole outstanding corporation Liberty revenue bonds that were issued on October 20th, 2011, the 2011 bonds, the proceeds of which were used to pay a portion of the cost of developing and constructing World Trade Center Tower 4, the Tower 4 facility. The Tower 4 facility is approximately 64-story building containing approximately 1,900,000 square footage of office space on 56 floors. The Tower 4 facility and the site upon which it was constructed are owned by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The company has leased the Tower 4 facility from the Port Authority for a term with approximately 80 years remaining. As landlord, the company has leased back 600,766 rentable square feet and 581,642 rentable square feet of the Tower 4 facility to the Port Authority and the City of New York as respective tenants. Today, we ask that the directors authorize the following actions that I will discuss in further detail in relation to this bond issuance. 1, the selection of the senior managing underwriter and additional underwriters, the appointment of financial advisors, if utilized, the holding of a public TEFRA hearing, the preparation of documents in connection with the bonds, and taking any other related actions. With respect to the selection of underwriters, Goldman Sachs & Company has been selected as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds. Goldman is on the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters that was created after an RFP process by Empire State Development and adopted by the corporation on February 24, 2020. The company selected Goldman for its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, including as underwriters on other corporation and ESD bond issuances. The company, in consultation with the corporation, will have the option to select other co-managing underwriters from the corporation's pre-qualified list of underwriters. With respect to the selection of a financial advisor, the corporation also may select a financial advisor from its pre-qualified list of financial advisors that was created after an RFP process by ESD and adopted by the corporation also on February 24, 2020. A financial advisor might be selected based on its extensive experience in all aspects of municipal finance, particularly real estate financing, their hourly rate proposal subject to a cap of $250,000, extensive experience as a financial advisor on other bond issuances, and responses and ratings in the pre-qualification process. The selected firm would be paid by the company pursuant to a pre-financing agreement. Staff now seeks the consent of the Board of Directors to adopt the selection of a financial advisor if one is utilized for the bond issuance. With respect to federal tax law requirements, the federal tax law, specifically the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, known as TEFRA, requires a hearing prior to the issuance of qualified private activity bonds in certain circumstances. The corporation has been requested to act as an issuer of qualified private activity bonds for the project. Consequently, a TEFRA hearing is required, and the applicable notice period for the TEFRA hearing is 7 days. TEFRA also requires that following the hearing, the applicable elected representative of the issuer of qualified private activity bonds, in this case the governor, approve the project and/or the plan of financing for the project. As such, the Board of Directors is being asked to authorize the holding of a public hearing, the publication of the prior notice of the hearing, and the subsequent request to the governor for approval of the plan of financing for the project. The bonds will be utilized to seize and redeem in whole the 2011 bonds. In order to do that, the documents from those prior financings must be reviewed and new documents must be drafted expeditiously. Staff is requesting consent by the Board of Directors to commence review and drafting documents. In conclusion, for this first item, staff asks that the directors authorize the selection of Goldman as the senior managing underwriter for the bonds and the ability to appoint additional underwriters as the deal progresses, the appointment of financial advisors if utilized, that the corporation take actions related to holding a TEFRA hearing, and the preparation of documents in connection with the bonds. An additional LDC board meeting will also occur so that the directors can approve the form of final documents and authorize transaction terms, including providing any mortgage recording tax exemptions. Are there any questions on this item?
Okay, well, thanks, Goldie, for that presentation. We're going to take this item, and then after we vote on this item, we'll ask you to present the next two items. So I'll remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item regarding appointment of underwriters, appointment of additional underwriters, and such? Okay, as noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I'll entertain a motion for approval on this item.
This is Mehul. So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, Mehul.
This is Mary, second.
Okay, thanks, Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. The motion carries. Goldie, you've got two items, and we'll take, I gather we're going to take the next two items together when you're done. Relate to the procurement of legal services in connection with the 4 World Trade Center projects bond refunding. Okay?
Correct. Yes.
Take it away, Goldie. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Howard. Okay, so today we are also asking that the directors authorize the corporation to enter into legal services contracts for bond and disclosure counsel in connection with the issuance of its bonds to refund bonds previously issued for the Tower 4 facility that I discussed in the first item. Bond counsel is needed to ensure the corporation's compliance with the federal tax law requirement for an opinion from bond counsel on tax-exempt bonds and to ensure compliance with applicable securities laws and market practices. We are recommending that Catton, Muchin, Rosenman, LLP, we'll refer to as Catton, and Seaton and Associates, which we'll refer to as Seaton. And I'll also note that Seaton is an MWBE firm, serve as co-bond counsel on this transaction. Both firms were selected from the corporation's pre-qualified counsel list. Catton previously served as bond counsel on multiple World Trade Center bond transactions, including the 2011 bonds when they were at another law firm. Seaton previously served as co-bond counsel with Catton in 2021 on the issuance of the 2021 bonds to finance the renovation and expansion of T8 at JFK, and as co-bond counsel on the LaGuardia Airport Terminal's C&D redevelopment project in 2020. The appointments of these law firms would represent an equitable distribution of work among the corporation's rotating slate of senior and junior tier bond law firms and MWBE law firms to handle the corporation's debt in terms of size, number of transactions, fees received, and length of time since their last engagement with the corporation. The contracts would be funded in their entirety by 4 World Trade Center LLC from the bond proceeds on or about the closing on the bonds, as agreed upon by the corporation and 4 World Trade Center in a pre-financing agreement. Councils will agree that the corporation will not be obligated to pay any amounts for services described herein, except to the extent, if any, that the corporation receives funds from 4 World Trade Center for that purpose. That is the conclusion of the items related to the procurement of counsel.
Okie doke. Thank you, Goldie. I'd like to remind everyone again to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to the items Goldie just reviewed with regard to counsel? As noted earlier, we don't have any comments from the public with regard to these items. I'll entertain a motion for approval of both items.
This is Mayhul, so moved.
Thank you.
This is Mary, second.
Okay, Mary, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Mayhul, so moved.
It's
Mary,
been so long since we've been together. Nobody wants to leave. That's good.
That's right.
Well, I hope everyone's doing well, and thank you so much for your participation, and thank you to the staff for all the work that goes into these initiatives, these important initiatives. I look forward to seeing or hearing from folks soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.